right, give it up for Mr. Sheldon Lettich, everybody.
Woo!
Guys, isn't that one of the coolest movies to watch in a theater with a crowd? How many of you guys have seen Bloodsport for the first time tonight? Oh, no, well, not too many. Yeah, thank God, not too many. I've been surprised with other ones, but yeah, this was, to me, the most awesome experience I've had watching Bloodsport so far, and I guess that's pretty reasonable. All right. Also, we're going to be having this gentleman here, Zach, from the Blood, Sweat, and Cinema podcast going tonight. We got Andrew down here as well. We're going to bring Andrew into the talk as well tonight. Zach. Sheldon.
Okay.
Join us
Get
tonight.
the director's chair there.
Absolutely, after you.
Okay, thanks.
As a reminder, everyone, Sheldon is also the director of Lionheart and fellow impact with Jean-Claude Van Damme as well. And he wrote Rainbow 3 with Sylvester Stallone. There's many other awesome things.
Kumite, kumite,
Kumite. Kumite. Hey, in just a moment, James from the Blood, Sweat, and Cinema podcast is going to be joining us as well. And he's one of Jean-Claude's best friends and training partners. We got a lot of Jean-Claude specific questions to ask, but for Sheldon, we wanted to go and dive into the screenwriting journey. So Sheldon, tell us how, you guys all saw that this was based on a true story by the real Frank Dux, right? And that's not necessarily true. It is true, and it was true the way that Sheldon worked on it.
Definitely not true.
But it wasn't like an exploitation movie where they just made that up. At the time, it did seem like it was a true story. So Sheldon, can you tell us a little bit how you got linked up with Frank Dux and how this whole thing started?
I'm having a little trouble hearing you. It sounds very bassy through that microphone.
Oh, no problem. You guys having a hard time hearing me out there?
Nope. No.
Okay, cool. Yeah, it was just basically, how did you get started linking up with Frank Dux?
Do me a favor though.
Yeah.
Is there a way to turn down the bass on that
Yes.
microphone?
We're gonna give it a shot.
Okay, so what was the question you asked me?
How did you link up with Frank Dux?
How did I link up with Frank Dux?
Yes.
Well, one thing, I want to recommend a book that that's been written about me. Is the book up there somewhere? Where did I put it? There's a book. It's called...
We've got Sheldon's book right here.
There it is. Thank you.
Sheldon has written a whole tome on like exactly how these things came up. So you guys can grab this. It's on Amazon. And
It's called From Vietnam to Van Damme, which is pretty much my adult life after I got out of after high school. Actually, I was in the Marine Corps. I was in Vietnam for 1 year. I ended up writing a lot of stuff about Vietnam, which got me Rambo 3 with Sylvester Stallone. I wrote a script called Firebase, Vietnam story, and Stallone was looking for a writer for Rambo 3, and he read my script, really liked it, and he liked the fact that I was actually a Vietnam veteran, which he thought would add some authenticity to. By the way, you can order the book from Amazon.com and BarnesandNoble.com. If I had like 120 copies, I would have brought them today, but I don't have that many. So we got a few here.
yes.
But as far as the story of Bloodsport and how I came to write it, and Harold happened to be representing another writer named Frank Dux. Harold had a book that Frank had written, and I swear to you, this book was 1,000 pages long. It was called The Last Rainbow, and it took place in Vietnam. It was a Vietnam story. And Harold asked me if there was any way I could cut the book down to 500 pages from 1,000, because he felt he could sell the book and get it published if it was shorter. So I read the book, and I was kind of impressed. And Frank, quite honestly, he'd never been to Vietnam. He was in the Marine Corps also, so he and I connected over that. But he'd never been in Vietnam, but he did a lot of research. He was a good researcher. He did a lot of research on martial arts, on the kumite, all of this stuff, so that he had a lot of knowledge about martial arts, but wasn't really not much of a physical practitioner of martial arts. He did have a dojo in North Hollywood at the time, and that's where I first met him. And so I read his book, and I wanted to meet with him. And I said, "Hey, I like your book. Let's sit down and talk. Let me see if I can find a way to make your book more sellable." So we got together at his dojo in North Hollywood. It was called Dux Ninjutsu. And he claimed to be a practitioner of ninjutsu. And he made a lot of claims, most of which were fantasies in his head. He claimed that, besides the kumite, his Shidoshi Tanaka was a ninja. This was
Okay. So that was like he said that he was trained as a child by a ninja.
Yeah, that was not mentioned in the movie. Okay, we couldn't mention everything that Frank claimed to be, and Frank claimed to have done. But he did say he was a ninja. He was trained when he was 16 years old. He was taken by Tanaka to a ninja camp in Japan and trained as a ninja and graduated as a ninja. And actually, one scene in the movie that people remember is the dim box scene. And that's his test to prove that he really is a student of Tanaka's. And that scene, that was not something that he claimed back at the time. He was claiming that his final test at the ninja camp was that they put him in a cave and they unleashed a bull, like a full-grown bull, and it was dark in there, and this bull attacked him, and he was supposed to kill the bull or disable the bull with one ninja blow to the head.
Wow.
And he claimed that he'd actually done this. And I actually had it in the very first draft of the screenplay. That was in there. And it was in there for a few drafts.
Why not?
And then finally we got down to having to film this thing in Hong Kong. And the production people were saying, how in the hell are we going to do this with the bull? Okay, it's not going to show up really well. It's going to be in a dark cave. It's not going to look good. Plus, we got to get a bull. Okay, and we got to get the bull in charge for the camera. And they just said, "No, Frank, we can't do this. Give us something else." And so he came up with the dim mock idea, which he'd always claimed that was something that he'd been taught by Tanaka. Was, bottom brick hits the bricks and the bottom brick explodes. So that was the substitute for killing a bull in a dark cave. And it works. People like it. Yeah, it's one of the memorable scenes from Bloodsport that everybody remembers. So I wrote the script, and but let me go back a little further. Okay, before I wrote the script, we were talking about the idea about Bloodsport, about the kumite, Frank Dux winning the kumite, and he was telling me stories about this kumite, and he said that it was a full contact sport, so people got hurt. There was blood all over the mat, which they show in the movie, and because of that, we had a nickname for the event, which was Bloodsport. Now, I heard that word, Bloodsport, and it was like I heard a choir of angels singing, okay? That's a great title for a movie. And you know what, as long as we're talking about that, this whole story that you're telling me about the kumite and winning the kumite and training as a ninja, that sounds like a movie to me. So we talked about it for a while, and I was planning to just sit down and write it, which I never did at the time. And then I met Mark LaSalle, who is the producer of Bloodsport. Frank and I shot a little Vietnam movie called Firefight at Camp Pendleton, not that far from here.
Wow.
So we shot the film. It was like did you have a question for me?
No, I was just saying, I didn't know that was on the campaign. I consider that part of San Diego. So. Fun fact.
Let me keep recounting this then. We shot this movie, and then I had to edit the movie. We shot it at Camp Pendleton with a 16mm movie camera, not like it is today. It's not like videotape. Basically, you get cameras, you buy film, you shoot the film, you process the film, then you edit the film together. So I was editing in a very low budget post-production house in Hollywood called Movie Tech. And next door to me, there was another production, a movie being edited, and it was something that was produced by Mark DeSalle. And he had an editor named Ruben Mazzini, who was also a former Marine. And so Ruben and I ended up talking a lot. We're right next door to one another. And somehow I had mentioned that I had been hired to write Rambo 3 with Stallone. So I'm a bona fide screenwriter now. I'm writing a script with Sylvester Stallone. And Ruben told his producer, Mark DeSalle, hey, the guy that's in the next editing room is writing Rambo 3 for Sylvester Stallone. So Mark tells him, hey, I want to meet this guy because I have an idea for a movie, a martial arts movie. So I went and had lunch with Mark DeSalle. And Mark had a theory about movies that there's a certain number of genres, and these genres keep recycling. And there hasn't been a martial arts movie for a while. So I've got an idea for a martial arts movie. I'm looking for a writer. Would you be interested in writing this? It's called Kickboxer. And he pitched Kickboxer to me. A very early version of Kickboxer, where, have you guys seen Kickboxer? Okay, well, in Kickboxer, Kurt Stallone is the name of the lead character. He's got a brother, okay, and the brother is injured in a fight with Tom Poe. And the brother's in the hospital, and so Kurt wants to take revenge for his brother being wounded by Tom Poe. Well, in the version that Mark pitched to me, there was no brother. Basically, Tom Poe is pissed off because Kurt defeated him in a kickboxing match. And so Tom Poe goes to Kurt's house. He finds out where Kurt lives. He sneaks into his house at night, and he throws a kick at Kurt. But he misses Kurt because Kurt is walking through the room or something. But Kurt's mother happens to be walking through the kitchen, and he kicks the mother in the head and kills Kurt's mother, okay? So this was the reason for Kurt wanting to find Tom Poe and defeat Tom Poe. Anyways, I said, okay, Mark, I'm not in love with this Kickboxer idea, but I got another idea. It's a martial arts movie. It's called Bloodsport. Well, he heard that title and instantly, wow, Bloodsport. Okay, tell me about Bloodsport. I tell him about Bloodsport. I tell him it's about this real guy named Frank Dux. He lives here in the valley. I can arrange a meeting. You can meet with him. And so we had a meeting. Mark listened to Frank's stories. Frank would tell these stories to absolutely everybody and embellish them and make them crazier. I mentioned that he was in the Marine Corps. He was in Marine Corps Reserves. He was never in Vietnam, never in a combat zone. But the stories became progressively wilder, and he started telling people that he was a Medal of Honor recipient. Huh? So this went pretty far, okay? Now, I'm a real Vietnam veteran, so once I realized that Frank was bullshitting, I was not happy about this. I'm still not happy about it. But anyways, Mark liked what he heard from Frank. Mark hired me to write the screenplay. He made a deal with Frank Dux to tell Frank's, he had the rights to Frank's true life story, okay? We're talking true life story here. And so I wrote the screenplay, and the screenplay just sat there for a little while. And Mark got the script to, is the mic off?
Oh, it's got that.
It's that button there.
It's got that. I gotta watch that button.
No.
Just for a second.
Okay, so Mark got the script over to Canon Films.
Ooh.
Now, Canon at the time was they were doing really well with martial arts movies, with karate movies. They were making those ninja movies. I believe they just showed a few here.
How many people are here for Ninja 3 with Sam Furstenberg a few weeks back?
Right.
Yeah.
So they were making ninja movies. They were doing Chuck Norris movies, martial arts movies with Chuck Norris. So they were doing well with martial arts movies. And so they purchased the Bloodsport script and they wanted to make Bloodsport. So now we had a few dilemmas with that. Who is going to play Frank Dux in this movie? We needed somebody who could do the martial arts, but not fake the martial arts the way that they did it in those ninja movies. Because in the ninja movies, the ninja is wearing a mask. So basically, you don't have to have. What's that?
Sorry, I was going to ask if this is like the fanboy version of this. Like, I think a lot of people assume that Jean-Claude was able to get into the canon film of Bloodsport because he was in Break and he had that cameo when he was dancing on Venice Beach. So, can you share how he kind of came into the fold? Was it a casting process, or was he already kind of associated with Golan and Globus?
Well, Jean-Claude had met Menachem Golan, the head of Canon Films, at I believe it was the Milan Film Festival. Jean-Claude was a hustler at the time. He had his business cards. He went to the Milan Film Festival, went to the Cannes Film Festival. He would go from room to room. Hi, nice to meet you. I'm Jean-Claude Van Damme. I'm going to be a big star one of these days. And let me show you some of my karate moves. And he would generally, the one move he liked to do was he would throw a kick at somebody's face. He did it to me a number of times, and he would miss your nose by an inch or two. So he did that to Menachem Golan. And Menachem, we happened to be looking for a star for Bloodsport. So he did that with Menachem. We saw Menachem in front of a restaurant in LA. And Menachem saw this little demonstration, and he tells his assistant, Karen, Karen, tomorrow you send Van Damme the script for Bloodsport. And basically, that's what happened. They sent him the script. I guess he came in and did a few more demonstrations. And they realized this might be our guy. Well, then, cut to a movie called No Retreat, No Surrender, where Jean-Claude played the villain. He played Ivan the Russian, and basically beat the shit out of this actor named Kurt McKinney, who starred in the movie. That happened to be playing in LA. Mark DeSalle says, hey, I think I found the guy who could play Frank Dux. His name is Jean-Claude Van Damme, and he's in this new movie called No Retreat, No Surrender. Why don't you and Frank go see that movie and tell me what you think? So Frank Dux and I went to see No Retreat, No Surrender. We saw it in North Hollywood at a multiplex theater there. And we were blown away. We really were very, very impressed. And Frank is a guy who doesn't get impressed easily. I don't get impressed easily. But we saw Van Damme in No Retreat, No Surrender, and we said, this is the guy. We called Mark DeSalle right away. We said, Mark, you're right. This is the guy. You got to hire him for Bloodsport. And that's what ended up happening. That's the genesis here.
Get into the screenplay writing. Like, you said this was a lot based on Frank Dux's story, but what resonated to you in actually crafting the characters? Was it the Ray Jackson character? Was that someone you created, or was that part of the story as well? Like,
he did say there was this American boxer guy. I think his name is Ray Robinson, though, not Jackson. And so I put that guy in, and a lot of what's in the screenplay. I'm watching a movie, and there's so many things that are in the movie that were actually in the screenplay. Like Michelle Kesey getting his leg broken and seeing the bone poking through. That's in the screenplay. I actually wrote that. fighting with the big guy was supposed to be a sumo. He wasn't quite a sumo, but he was kind of big and kind of hefty. Yeah, I even wrote it in the screenplay that when he gets knocked out, he hits the mat, and there's a big boom. So that was all written in the screen. There's a lot that was in the screenplay that's in the movie. Anyways, that got make it. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was gonna say, was the Chong Li chant part of the original screenplay? The Chong Li, was that part of thought or anything?
Frank, actually came up with a lot of good ideas for the movie, and he came up with Chong Li. You talk to him nowadays, he talks to people about this stuff, and he says, oh yeah, Chong Li was a real guy. I don't think Chong Li was a real guy. But it's a cool name, Chong Li,
Yeah.
and it makes a good chant, Chong Li. So, and there were a number of other things that he came up with, like the coin trick at the hotel. Frank totally came up with that.
Really?
And there's a few other things. He did make contributions, but he did not write the screenplay. He likes telling people that he did, and that I'm stealing his credit, I'm stealing his money, but no, he did not. I'm the one who actually sat down, came up with the structure, because you hear all these stories, and it's one thing to hear the stories loosely connected, but did I turn this damn thing off again?
Sorry about that, Bill.
All right. So it's one thing but that's no movie screen. There's no structure. So I came up with the structure for this, which was at the time a unique structure. Basically, I decided this movie's going to be about the Kumite and nothing else. It starts out with these fighters. They're going to the Kumite. They're talking about the Kumite. They get to the Kumite. We meet the other fighters. We have a bunch of fights, and then Frank Dux wins at the end. He gets on a plane and goes home. That was the whole story.
Yeah.
That's what I came up with, was that structure. And there have been a lot of other movies that are pretty much using that same structure afterwards. Bloodsport was a very successful film, and there were a number of offshoots, imitations. There's a blood fight, blood match, Blood Fist, right? The Don Wilson movies, and that's pretty much what I came up with, was the structure for how to make this thing work as a movie, because that just doesn't exist in the ether. It was not written down anywhere. That was something I came up with, and it works pretty damn good. Now, I showed the script to a very famous producer named Dino De Laurentiis. And I forgot why I showed it to him, but we were talking about some other project, and here, you want to read my script, Bloodsport. And he read the script, and he said, he was Italian, his script is terrible. It's just fight, more fight, another fight, more fights. And yeah, Dino, you got it. That's the movie. That's what people want to see. Okay. So, I did something right with that.
Yeah, well, tell us a little bit about, I think, the reason why it works so well too is that we really have a lot of empathy for Frank. He seems like such a great guy, and also somebody that is a little torn by his skill set, maybe harming others and whatnot. So, how did you kind of craft the character? It doesn't sound like the real Frank Dux is who you're describing us, but to create him to be empathetic within this world.
I'm sorry, but my hearing's not great either, but I'm having a hard time understanding what you're saying, because everything's a little basic. Could you repeat that to me, or actually without a microphone?
Yeah, I was saying that I think a big reason why it works is because you created such an empathetic character of Frank within the film, and someone who's a bit torn with his fighting skills with causing harm to others. And how that doesn't sound like the real Frank Dux, I'm assuming, a little bit. So, what was the idea behind creating the character to be such a nice guy and a good guy?
I think what I was basically doing was going along with this fantasy character about himself that he created about himself.
Interesting.
Okay, he totally created this story, this myth about himself being this martial arts champion. And he still sticks to that story nowadays, even though it's been disproved by many people. You can't find anybody who was really you'd think you could find somebody that was at this Kumite. They could say, oh yeah, I was there, I saw Frank. There was this one guy who was saying, oh yeah, I was there, I saw the whole thing.
He killed them all.
Huh?
He killed them all.
He killed them all.
There you go, right. But yeah, Frank was coaching people, telling them what to say. So, quite honestly, I know Frank, I've known him pretty well for many years. Not anymore, we're not really not friends anymore. But I don't think he's ever been in any martial arts match at all. There was one fight that he was in. It was at a martial arts event in Long Beach. And he got into an altercation with an MMA fighter named Zane Frazier. Now, Zane Frazier is the real deal. He's a real MMA guy, or at least he was back then. And Zane was working some classes for Frank. He was teaching some classes at Frank's dojo. And there was a money issue between them where Zane was saying Frank didn't pay him. So Zane confronts Frank at this event, and basically Zane threw a few punches, put Frank on the floor. So that's the only real match that anybody knows about that's genuine. Basically, an MMA guy put him down on the floor quickly. And then, so I was still friends with Frank at the time. So he told me he was in the hospital. So I go to Cedars-Sinai to visit him. And he'd had surgery. Basically, Zane Frazier punched him so hard in the head that he caved in part of his skull.
Oh, man.
It's serious. Although Frank was not telling people that Zane Frazier did that. He was saying, well, I have spinal meningitis or something. But I saw that there was the scar there where the surgeons had basically cut away part of his skull to go in there and stop the bleeding. So that was the one fight that I know about, was the fight with Zane Frazier. And it was not at the Kumite, it was not even at a competition, it was at a martial arts event. And they had some words between them, and basically, I don't know, and it was actually witnessed by some other people that were there.
Jeff Speakman.
Huh? Jeff Speakman, yeah, so people actually saw this. So, yeah, basically Frank got punched in the head by Zane. Zane was a good puncher, and Frank went down. And next thing you know, he's in the hospital. So,
Well, we've got a couple of martial artists here tonight, guys. This is Zach and this is James.
Right.
They host the Blood, Sweat, and Cinema podcast. And James, a longtime training partner and a close friend of Jean-Claude Van Damme. So we're saying that James might be the world's most foremost expert on Bloodsport, just from all the insider knowledge he has of what happened at the time and all the research he's done on it. So James, I do want to ask you a couple questions. First one being, what was Jean-Claude's headspace going into the filming? Because it seemed to be his breakout role. Do you know, have you heard anything about how he was feeling coming into this one?
Just to back up a little bit, Jean-Claude got into canon through Chuck Norris, essentially, because he was a trainer where he trained Chuck Norris and trained with him. In fact, it was Jean-Claude's flexibility program that got Chuck Norris in his mid-40s down into the full splits for the first time in his life.
That's crazy.
And Chuck hired him and took him to the Philippines. He's actually a stuntman in the first Missing in Action. So it was through that connection that he was able to make the relations in canon. Anyway, that's a side note on that. Jean-Claude told me when he did Bloodsport, he was just crazy, hungry, and really good. That was his headspace. He didn't think much about it because he wasn't educated in film at the time. It was his first movie. So that's why you really see such a great performance. Also, we just talked with Scott Atkins, and actually Scott's opinion on it was that when he, in the last fight where he sits down, he just pours himself emotionally to the audience. That's Scott's take on one of the reasons that movie was the audience were susceptible to Jean-Claude.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense, and I agree. Do you have any anecdotes from the set? I know you filmed in Hong Kong. You showed me a picture earlier of that walled city when the guys or whatever were trying to catch Frank. Like,
How much time do we have?
hey, we got as much time as you guys want. We're gonna ask some questions.
Well, as you know, you guys are familiar with the walled city in Hong Kong. So the walled city was an area basically where Hong Kong law didn't have any force in there. Didn't apply. So all the criminals essentially lived in there. So when they come in from mainland China and broke the law, the ones that went into the walled city, the law enforcement in Hong Kong couldn't actually touch them. So that's a very brief history in the walled city.
And that's the real walled city in the movie.
Yes, it is. The only part of that movie that's not the real walled city is when he enters the door to walk into the Kumite. That's actually a Buddhist temple in Yangmate in Hong Kong, which is a totally different location. But when they're walking down the alley, the dirty alleys and everything, that's the original walled city, which was basically, there was no daylight in there. There was only a little bit in the center. You could see.
The singer really from Kickboxer. Last fight, no?
No, Kickboxer, the sound stage you use in Bloodsport is the same sound stage you use for the last fight in Kickboxer. That's the connection between the two movies other than Van Damme.
Guys, what does Jean-Claude feel about, how does he feel about the film now? Is this like kind of the one that like resonates a lot with him now?
He loves this movie. I just sent him a picture of the poster outside 3 or 4 hours ago. Within 5 minutes he called me. He loves
This is
Bloodsport.
happening tonight, guys.
Yeah. All right, let's see if we can get him on the phone. I can't promise you he'll pick up, but let's try.
Oh, wait.
Let's see, I don't know that he'll pick up.
Oh, is he gonna see that?
Okay. Because he is in Hong Kong at 16 hours ahead.
Ooh, this still goes to Hong Kong.
Come on, JC.
Well, he's not picking up, but if he does, we'll pick up the phone. So, right, guys.
Thank you, James.
But yeah, so he really loves Bloodsport. He lives in Hong Kong, and one of the reasons he lives in Hong Kong is because of Bloodsport. And it's a very fond memory.
And Double Impact, we shot that there also.
Yeah. Just as a side note, you have a fighter in Bloodsport called John Chum. He's a guy who fights the Muay Thai fighter, and he gets cut across the face a little later in the fights. That's John Chum. He actually worked as a choreographer on Kickboxer and Double Impact. And he's the fat guy that plays the opponent that fights Bruce Lee in Jason Scotty in Dragon, the Bruce Lee story, where he plays Wong Jackman in that whole Nothenburger Bruce Lee fight.
Let me explain to the audience here why the movie takes place in Hong Kong. Okay? The Frank Dux told us that the Kumite that he attended took place in the Bahamas, of all the weird places, in the Caribbean. Okay, so that was the story. And when I first wrote the screenplay, I don't think I even said where it was, because the Bahamas just sounded like such a weird place for a Kumite. So I didn't mention where the Kumite was taking place. It's just the Kumite is happening. But basically, people have checked with the government in the Bahamas, and they've said, no, there was never anything like this in the Bahamas. What are you talking about? We ended up shooting in Hong Kong because Jean-Claude and Canon, it was Canon Films actually, but not them, found a really great production deal in Hong Kong. A guy named Charlie Wang, he owned a company called Salon Films. Charlie is in the movie, by the way. He's the doctor that they go to when Jackson's in the hospital. That's Charlie Wang. So Charlie had been bugging the people at Canon, telling them, you need to shoot a movie in Hong Kong. I can supply all the crew, all the cameras, locations, and everything. And he did. So they ended up, just because it would save them a lot of money to shoot in Hong Kong, so we changed the script to take place in Hong Kong. And then we ended up doing Double Impact in Hong Kong. Why? Same reason. Charlie Wang going to give us a great deal. Because Double Impact was originally the Corsican Brothers. It was based on a novella called The Corsican Brothers. And on a movie that was actually made around 1944 with Douglas Fairbanks Jr. If you see the Corsican Brothers with Douglas Fairbanks Jr., you're going to watch this movie and you're going to say, well, shit, this is Double Impact. And basically, that's what it's based on. It's that movie. But we ended up, it was originally supposed to be the Corsican Brothers. We were going to shoot in Corsica and Paris. Canon actually sent me to Corsica and Paris. I did some scouting. But at the end of the day, they realized, you know what, this is going to be too damn expensive to shoot in Europe. Why don't we shoot in Hong Kong instead? Actually, Jean-Claude is the one who said, guys, why don't we shoot it in Hong Kong? Because he loves Hong Kong. Yeah. So we changed the whole story, had it take place in Hong Kong and Los Angeles, and changed basically it's the same story, but the original brothers were Carlo and Marco, and we changed it to Chad and Alex. And hopefully they'll get a print of Double Impact, and they'll show that here sometime.
What do you think, guys? Let's come back with Double Impact.
You guys want to see Double Impact on here. And you notice if you've seen Double Impact, I bet you most of these folks have seen it. We brought over a few actors from Bloodsport.
Yeah.
Well, we got Bolo. Bolo was in Bloodsport, and Inspector Chen. He's also actually he's one of the main villains in Double Impact.
Yeah.
And a few of the other fighters, like the big sumo guy in Bloodsport, we used him in Double Impact. So I think John too.
The sumo guy in Double Impact is the guy when the two Van Dammes are at the docks at night. Van Damme, the Chad character, walks up to him and goes, and he looks around, he just jumps in place and hook kicks him in the head. That's the sumo guy from Bloodsport.
This guy knows more about my movies than I do, I swear. He knows every line of dialogue, every kick, every punch.
So for what it's worth, I brought a few things for you.
Yeah, James, let's see what we got here.
What we have here, and I know it's hard to see it if you're up there, but we have a scene here where Tanaka and Shingo and the young Frank Dux actually do a scene where they put out the candles in the movie. That's actually deleted, but it's actually in the final draft of the script right here, but it was deleted. And another scene that's interestingly totally deleted is Jackson and the Dukes character having a beer before Hussein challenges Janice and to do the coin trick. And I talked to Jean-Claude about this. They were actually shot. And David Work told me almost everything in this final draft was actually shot, which leaves probably about 20 minutes out of the movie.
Shout out to David Worth, the photography for this film, awesome filmmaker.
He also directed Kickboxer.
Yeah. Hey, Sheldon, I have a question too. So after writing the script here, you ended up developing a relationship with Jean-Claude and obviously working with several other times.
Can you put the mic down? Yeah, let me just talk to
All
me.
this guys, you
All
guys
right.
hear me. But
Okay.
yeah, after Bloodsport, you connected with Jean-Claude and you formed a relationship with him and ended up directing other movies starring him.
Right,
How
right.
did you guys, because you weren't really around on the set of Bloodsport, how did you, make that connection and then you ended up wanting to work with you as a director?
Well, actually, Jean-Claude and Frank Dux called me from Hong Kong, and I had not met Jean-Claude yet, but I knew Frank. And basically, Frank said, Mark DeSalle is messing up the script. He's totally fucking up the script. We need some help. So they called me to see if I could help. And actually, Mark did not mess up the script too badly. The movie works pretty damn good. So, I don't know, if I had meddled, I might have messed it up. But that was the first time I spoke to Jean-Claude. He was on top of a skyscraper in Hong Kong with Frank Dux. And as Frank Dux, the way he's told the story many times to many people is that as Jean-Claude actually challenged me, we were on the roof of a skyscraper in Hong Kong, and I threatened to throw him off the skyscraper, and he backed down, and so I let him know who was boss. That's Frank Dux. Okay.
I can tell you that wouldn't have happened. I know Jean-Claude, you know what he would say? Go fuck yourself. That's probably literally what he would say if you said that to him.
That's absolutely incredible.
Sorry for not bleeping that.
No, we don't need to bleep it. Hey guys, we're gonna open it up to the fans. So if you guys want to raise your hand, just start talking. Just raise your hand. I'll call on you. We can ask you questions.
So guys, one thing. This is the first martial arts cover from a few months before Bloodsport got released.
Nice.
Those thoughts you might have
First
seen.
martial
Combat
arts
magazine.
film.
Is anybody familiar with Combat magazine from Europe?
Yeah.
There was two major martial arts magazines throughout the 70s, 80s, 90s in Europe called Combat Magazine, this one, and Martial Arts Illustrated, which throughout the 90s, Jean-Claude was probably on 35 to 50% of the covers. Yeah, so this is in the October '87, and that's pretty much just shortly after they held a screening at Cannes in August, and which everybody really enjoyed. By that time, the cut that you saw tonight was the cut that was about to be released, but it didn't get released until February the 25th, '88. It took a bit of time.
Bloodsport sat on the shelf for, I think, almost a year because Menachem Golan, who's the head of Canon, hated the movie. I mean, hated the movie. Hated Jean-Claude. It's insane, isn't it? And I've told this story many times. And in Menachem's words, I'm quoting him verbatim because he was trying to get me to use Michael Dudikoff in Bloodsport and not Jean-Claude. And he was, in his own words, he said, Van Damme is poison. Michael Dudikoff is a movie star. And fortunately, I argued with him. I argued a lot with Menachem. Menachem also told me, I told Menachem he wasn't going to release it in theaters because he hated the movie. I said, Menachem, if you release Bloodsport in theaters, it's going to make more money than Missing in Action 3. And that was their big movie that summer. They called it Braddock. Missing in Action 3. They figured they'd have another Rambo on their hands. And Menachem's retort to me was, "You're dreaming, my friend." Well, Bloodsport did end up making a lot more money than Missing in Action 3. And is anybody talking, and here in 2026, is anybody talking about Missing in Action 3? No.
You just did.
We're talking about
So just as Sheldon mentions about Bloodsport making money, first 11 days in only 6 cinemas grossed over 500,000 in 11 days.
Wow.
Keep in mind, this is 1988. This is an original ad from Variety.
Oh, what's that per screen average? Wow. That's
And this is March '88, March 22nd, so exactly 1 month after it was officially
But
released.
they weren't going to release it at all. And there's a number of stories as to how they ended up being convinced to release it. Now, I knew a French producer named Sammy Hadida. And Sammy produced my movie, Only the Strong. And he's produced you guys like Only the Strong?
We should bring Only the Strong here.
You want to see it here?
Yes.
And you know, Mark Dacascos lives up in L.A. We might be able to bring Mark Dacascos down.
I'm sure we can get on that, guys.
All right, but anyways, Sammy also produced No Retreat, No Surrender. No, he didn't produce it. He bought it for France. He called it Karate Tiger. And it did really well in France. And so when Sammy heard that there was a new Van Damme movie, and Menachem didn't want to release it in theaters, Sammy basically said, I'll buy it from you. Tell me how much you want. I will buy that movie, Bloodsport, and I will put it in theaters. And so Sammy's a pretty smart, savvy guy, and it made Menachem realize that maybe I should try putting this in some theaters. So they put it on the west coast of the U.S. They wouldn't release it nationwide because Menachem did not have enough confidence in it. So they released in California, Oregon, and Washington, and it did really well. So they ended up releasing it nationwide and then worldwide. And this movie it's a landmark movie. It's called the best martial arts movie ever made. It only competes with Enter the Dragon. Personally, I think Bloodsport is much better than Enter the Dragon. But that's my opinion. I'm a little prejudiced, okay?
But just one thing, if you look on the picture board, there's 4 pictures here at the bottom. This was actually the first release that Canon did. It's in Malaysia. And then it was released on the West Coast, and you'll see at the bottom here's a picture with Muhammad Kizi, he played Tom Bone kickboxer and Juan Paradis in this movie. And here's Sheldon in the middle, and Jean-Claude celebrating the success of the release of it in '88. But it was originally released, this is the demonstration Jean-Claude put on in Malaysia. That, and then when it did so well there, Monaco gave it the US West Coast release. Anyway, just for that info.
See, that's long, James. Thank you so much for that. That's amazing stuff. Well, you're never going to hear that anywhere else.
Do we want to ask the audience?
Yeah.
You guys have any questions out there?
Yeah. We got this gentleman right here.
So you're talking about what's in the script versus the movie. Was his butt in the script? Like what?
Was Jean-Claude's butt? in
Oh, the butt
script?
scene. The butt scene. Yeah.
Should we bring
Whose
them
idea was that?
Bring them a mic.
Now, that's become a bit of a trademark for Jean-Claude. Now, I directed Lionheart, okay? And we had a scene where he's in Cynthia's apartment, and he's just gotten out of the shower. He's got a robe on, and he says to me kind of quietly, "Hey, what if I dropped the robe?" And I said, "Well, look, we've already shot it with the robe on, so it's not going to hurt to get another shot where you drop the robe." And so, yeah, he drops the robe, and you see his ass, and that just became a trademark. He had to show his ass in just about every movie. You guys have seen Universal Soldier, right? You remember the scene where he tells the girl, Allie, something, look for something hard. And he's standing there like spread eagle and naked. Look for something hard.
But you gotta do admit, he does have a fine ass.
All right, guys. Who's up next? Any other questions for us? Come on. Here we go. This guy
Do you
right
guys
here.
look back at it like a little differently now, or do you have sort of a chip on your shoulder knowing that you had a future Best Oscar winner in
In Forrest Whitaker?
Yeah.
What was Forrest Whitaker's experience with you?
Well, we had no idea that Forrest was going to become this huge movie star. Yeah, basically the casting people at Canon put him in the movie. And yeah, we liked Forrest. Nobody could tell that he was going to be this huge. Has he won an Oscar, by the way? Has Forrest
Yeah.
won?
Yeah, that's what
King of Scotland. Yeah.
Oh, that's right. That's right. And I co-wrote another movie way back then called Ruskies. Anybody see Ruskies? Oh, yeah. Okay. So people have heard of it. And also had Patrick Kilpatrick, who played the Sandman in which movie was that?
Death Warrant.
Death Warrant.
We just had on the
But
podcast.
the star of Ruskies, it was like three kids who find a Russian sailor washed up on the beach. Well, the lead kid was, he called himself Leaf Phoenix at the time, and this was actually Joaquin Phoenix, and we had no idea back then that this kid would end up winning a Best Actor Oscar years later. So you never can tell with some of these actors.
Incredible. Oh, next person. Who's up next? All right, this guy in the hat over here.
Is there a story behind the repeating eagle tattoo on multiple fighters' arms?
Eagle tattoo on multiple fighters' arms. Was that real part? Is there a story behind that? Might be for James.
Could you repeat that? My hearing's not great.
Is there a story behind the eagle tattoos
The
that were
eagle
utilized
tattoo?
on multiple fighters? Or that just happenstance?
You have to remember, some of the fighters in that movie were actually triads. So some of those tattoos were real. There were some people on that set you didn't play around with.
I don't recall the eagle tattoo, actually. It's a Bloodsport?
It was on Akos or the Muay Thai fighters.
On the Muay Thai fighter.
Oh, no, that's not a real tattoo on Papa. But there were some Asian fighters in there with different kinds of tattoos, and they were like more triad members and so on. Each tattoo represents a different tribe and so on.
I had Jean-Claude wear a tattoo in Lionheart. We did like a lion on his chest, and that tattoo gave me so many problems because we simply could not keep it on. He had that weird bathing suit on with the straps, and it kept rubbing the ink off, and so yeah, I stay away from tattoos after that.
All right, another question. Up top in the hat.
So I know when movies are being done, everything on the script doesn't end up on the film, but was there like, I know Donald Gibb did an interview kind of talking about how he kind of created his own character, like when he's on the bus, he puts his foot up, he's like, swing hands for you, huh, honey? Like stuff like that. Was there like a lot of like improv done? Like, hey, you know, that just comes off better on camera than what the script shows, or is there any variety like that? Did any of the actors or performers have any?
I think Donald Gibb came off much better in the movie than what was written on the page. This happens a lot, actually. We do what we can with the script, but it really takes an actor, it takes a good actor to bring things to life. Like we had the Frank Dux character here in Bloodsport. What really brings him alive is a guy like Jean-Claude. Jean-Claude who can actually do all the martial arts, who looks good, who can act good. So having the right actor makes a huge difference. And with Donald Gibb, yeah, the character he's playing is pretty much what was in the script, but he embellished it. He made it bigger. He made it larger than life.
Yeah, the Harley Davidson part was up in the script. Like, was it just like a boxer in the script?
Man,
And kind of added in that.
I think he added all. He added the Harley Davidson stuff himself.
All right, another question. Just jumping over here.
I just want to piggyback off what he said, like, because Donald Gibb Jackson has so many awesome lines. Like, I was kind of asking the same thing, like, did he come up with it or was that in the script?
Did he ad-lib his lines?
Now, when you look at the final draft, words change and odd line here and there. For the most part, it's all in the script. In fact, there's a lot more in the script that's not in the movie that was actually shot. It was cut out.
All right. This guy right here.
Okay, so you mentioned there are 20 minutes that were omitted from the
Approximately.
approximately.
There's probably more. There's probably more than 20 minutes.
Got it. Is there a particular scene that you, of those 20 minutes that were omitted, was there a particular scene that you wish was included in the final script? And if so, which scene would not have been?
The candle scene.
Yeah,
Because when you understand martial arts, it's about reflex to put out the candle. And it's not maybe as easy as someone might think. Yeah, plus the philosophy that was in the scene, there's a lot of dialogue that was very philosophical. Maybe that's why they cut it. Maybe it was dragging too long. I think what they cut, the cut we have, I think, runs perfectly. For me personally, I'd love to see it with all the dialogue. But maybe it would drag a little bit. You have to understand what they're talking about. There's a lot of philosophical stuff. If you're into action movies, you're not into martial arts, you might get bored with it.
What about you, Sheldon? Anything in particular from the script that didn't make it into the film that you wish would have been in there?
No.
Nice.
I like what's there. There was a version of the film, the first version that we saw, that Mark DeSalle showed us. It was much longer, it had much more stuff in it, and it just did not work. I saw it with Jean-Claude and Michelle Casey, the whole gang. We all went and saw the screening, and we were depressed afterwards. We were basically saying, how could this movie turn out so bad? And it just had bad pacing. It didn't have the music. That's in there now. The music is fantastic. It really elevates the film. The cutting wasn't good. The cutting of the fights was not good. Jean-Claude actually went into the editing room and recut some of the fights because he understood how the fights were supposed to work. The first editor really didn't know. He was in over his head. He wasn't used to doing this kind of a movie. In fact, nobody was. This was kind of an unusual, kind of an original, unusual movie. Like I said, the structure was different than anything I had seen before. If you look at some boxing movies, they don't have a structure like this. This is weird. So he didn't quite. He was like an old-time Hollywood guy. He actually cut the Towering Inferno, which was his kind of movie. But he totally didn't get Bloodsport, and the first cut was just a mess. And I think that's one of the reasons that Monarch and Golan hated it so much, because the first cut was really bad. We were all down in the dumps over that one. But then they brought in a guy to completely revamp the movie. He was I keep blanking.
Michael J. Duthie.
What's that? Michael J. Duffy. He was like the fixer at Canon. They had him there, and he would fix movies that were in trouble. Well, he fixed ours. He tightened it up. He made the fights work better. I can't remember exactly what it was because I just want to blank out how bad that movie was when we first saw it. And this happens a lot of times, movies, some classic movies, the first time you look at them, you think, this is a disaster. You get in there and you do some work and you can save them sometime. In this case, Michael Duffy completely saved this movie, and also I have to give a lot of credit to Stan Bush and Paul Herzog. They elevated, I was noticing it tonight a lot. I was noticing just how much the music elevated all those scenes. Paul just did a great job.
Also in the fight scenes is, Jean-Claude actually in with the technician and Copeland, there's actually quite a bit cut out of those fight scenes. So there's quite a bit in there.
Yeah.
So is there lore behind Tenso's son being killed by Chung-Li, since they say he killed someone last year? Was that his son that he killed, or is that just coincidence that he happened to die?
It's something we did not work out. Okay. Frank, what's that?
I always thought the same thing.
You always thought what?
I always thought that Shinzo Tanaka's son was killed by Chong-Li.
Oh.
I always
But it's not
I never did,
specified.
but you know what? That kind of works.
It works 100%.
Okay.
Because they mentioned he killed someone.
Right.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
And he says, I'm going to fight in the Kumite someday and make my father proud. So.
Right. Oh, okay.
But it was never specified in any version of the script that that's what happened, but you could come to that conclusion.
You're certainly connecting the dots.
Too bad I wasn't around back then. I couldn't help that.
Right.
bought it.
Notice of it. All right, this gentleman up here in the hat.
I remember reading a couple years ago that A24 bought the rights to
Correct.
the movie, or they're going to do a remake or something. Is that something you guys would have anything to do with, or get a check for, or anything?
Yeah. Well, Chad Stahelski and David Leitch, they're the guys behind the John Wick movies, and they've done a few other. I think like Bullet Train. They've done a number of action movies lately, and they are huge fans of Bloodsport. Like these guys came over to my house one day. This is before they became famous with John Wick. And actually, Chad worked on a movie of mine called Perfect Target, and they came to my house. We're talking about maybe doing some stuff together back then, and I go in I go in the other room where my bathroom is. I have a Bloodsport poster. In fact, the one that I brought here is hanging in my bathroom. Oh, and I saw Chad and David were just standing there, transfixed, like they were looking at a religious icon. Wow, a real Bloodsport poster. They love Bloodsport that much, and they're the ones that want to do it with A24 and with Warner Brothers. They also want to redo Lionheart. I've heard this too, and they want to do Enter the Dragon. Just like all you guys, they're big fans of all of these movies. So I do believe that A24 has got the rights to Bloodsport. I'm not positive, but I know they want to do it, and there have been a few attempts to do a Bloodsport remake. I actually got hired to write one called Bloodsport: A New Beginning, but for various reasons it didn't happen.
Interesting stuff. All right, let's go here.
I had a question about the blindfold training. Was that something that Frank did, or is that a original creation for the script?
He used to claim that he could feel things, like using his special ninja powers. And he did it a few times. He would put a blindfold on, but he would really cheat. He would really have it lifted up, and he'd say, "I'll give you a demonstration. I can do this." And so yeah, he claimed that he was able to feel his way around the room, and if somebody's handing him a plate, he could take the plate. So, and if Chong Li is throwing a kick at him, he could stop the kick.
Now, while I don't believe Frank Dux could do any of that, I was in Hong Kong and a guy blindfolded could, and it was a legitimate blindfold. You couldn't see you couldn't see 4 inches in front of you. He could tell what I was doing, and he was correct. You can develop your senses to a point that you can almost tune into somebody's motion and their senses and know what they're doing, but Frank Dux can't do it.
All right, guys, we have time for 2 more questions. Who's got another one? Okay, wait. Oh, here we go. Good. Let's go.
Can I get from each of you your most favorite, especially as a screenwriter, your favorite moment of the movie? Like every time you watch it, it's just like, yeah, it's the best part right there. I know that you mentioned the Lord that regarding the clock, but is there any moment that kind of stands out?
Your favorite moment?
Favorite moment of the movie.
I have a number of them, and every time I see the movie, I find a different one that I like. I found a few. I couldn't tell you what was my favorite moment watching it tonight, and I haven't seen it on a big screen for a while, but it's a treat to see it on a big screen. It's just a lot of details that you don't see when you're watching it on video on the TV. So yeah, you guys had a very special privilege tonight. But do you guys have a favorite scene in the movie?
Especially when you hear James as the world's foremost Bloodsport expert.
I like the whole movie. I have a favorite scene. It's all pretty good if you look at it for what it's meant to be seen. I think my favorite fight in the whole movie is Van Damme's character against the Muay Thai guy. I think the rhythm, the timing, the way they cut it, the music, everything works.
You mean against
Paco?
Yeah.
Against Paolo. That's my favorite fight scene. I play that all the time, just that particular, especially when the music comes up.
Exactly.
When he nut shots the sumo guy. 100%.
It's just kind of like a little.
That's my entire family's favorite part. And the scene where basically Ray Jackson first meets Mr. Lin in room 310.
Yeah. Okay.
We always say that 1,000 times a minute at my hometown.
That's amazing.
2 minutes for you, honey.
All right, final question. Let's go right here.
Did the janitor end up retiring after he got the gold tooth? And then off the movie of the gold.
Or did the guy retire after he took that?
That isn't, let's meet right after this. You and I can start writing that. James would probably know whether or not that guy is still even around.
Yeah, he's in Hong Kong. His name's Mandy Chan. He's been in a number of Hong Kong movies. Yeah, as a bit part player. Yeah, but he's around. Yeah.
Hey, I have one final question for all of you guys. I think that Bloodsport is obviously one of the best martial arts films of all time. What resonates for you two guys as martial artists? What about the film resonates for you, like as fighters? And I would ask the same thing with Sheldon. What crafting the story meant from an empathetic point of view?
I have a little bit of Tourette syndrome, so I want to say this. I ain't your pal, dick face. I've been wanting to say that the whole time I've been up here. Just say that.
What was that?
I ain't your pal, dick face.
Oh, ain't your pal, dude.
Yeah, that's my favorite line. I forgot to bring that up.
And okay, USA.
That's a good one too. I mean, they all float around. My little 8-year-old nephew and 13-year-old nephew say all that stuff, which is really cool. Anyways, because of me and my brother and our demented minds. So in regards to martial arts in that movie, I mean, they're synonymously the same thing in my mind. I mean, I remember I started martial arts when I was probably 5 or 6 years old, wrestling, taekwondo, kickboxing. I remember getting home from school, and I've said this 1,000 times to Sheldon, like a little kid when I first met him. I remember getting home from school, going down in the basement, putting it on the beta machine, and watching Bloodsport before I go to my taekwondo class. And that was literally every day from probably up until like 21 years old. And then every week I probably put it on once or twice, and me and James put it on once or twice at the gym, and yeah.
I met some guy, I forgot, at a screening or something, and he told me that he would listen to Bloodsport as he was driving to work every day. He had a long commute, but he wasn't watching the vision. He was just had
That's
just
cool.
just the sound. He was just because he'd seen it many times, and he could envision what was going on, and he just kept listening to it over and over again.
I work out to the soundtrack still to this day.
Makes sense, dude. James?
It first came out in Ireland in September 1989, a month before Kickboxer came out. And I went into the video store, and it was but in Ireland they have, you guys have like slip cases here for VHS tapes. We have actual boxes. So it's a bigger, and it's something like more you can hold it. And I walked in, and I still remember the video store was Video Vision. And they said, hey, I got a movie. And it's called Bloodsport. I said, okay. And it was like probably 20, maybe 15 of them on the shelf, because the movie was going to go to get more copies. And then I brought it home. So every Friday, coming from school, I'd rent it and bring it back on a Monday. And about a month after doing this, I'm just going to keep it. So I actually kept the tape. I still have the tape. And of course, at that time, for the people who were around will know, when you had the videotape for so long, because I think you got it for 48 hours, you had to bring it back. They send a note to the house, or they call you and say, and then they send you a bill. So this came in the mail, there was no phone call. And my father was addressed to James Bennett, that's me, but my father was also James Bennett. So he got the thing, and he goes, what's this with this Bloodsport thing? And I don't know what it was, 50 Irish punt at the time. And he said, bring that fucking thing back to the store, I don't want to waste my money on it. See, haven't we seen it enough of this guy kicking the fuck out of people? That's what he said to me. So I brought it back in, gave the $50, and the guy said, I'll keep it, and he gave me the box. And I kept it. And I would tell my father, I'm going to go to America, and I'm going to meet this guy. And I did. But when you know Jean-Claude as well as I know him, you see the movie differently, for the better. I don't know how to explain that really. It's like you get to understand why certain things are the way they are, because you get to know him as a person. And then when you go to Hong Kong, you go for Chinese, and you say, oh, this is where we shot this. And this is when where he did the splits of the Lions Pavilion. That's Victoria Peak, it overlooks. It's on Hong Kong Island, but it overlooks the harbour, and right in front of you is Kowloon, which is attached to the mainland. The funny thing is, when you look at Bloodsport, and I asked him once, because where that is, when you look directly across, is where he lives now on Kowloon. But of course, they have taken up, what's the word, they reclaimed a lot of the land. It was more water then, so they built up native land. And his buildings right there. I asked him, I said, at one point, did you ever think when you were doing the splits on that concrete slab, because the slab is no longer there because people would get up and try to do the splits, but if you fall down, you're gone. So they took it away. But everything else up there is the same. And he looked at me, he goes, fuck, no, I was just enjoying the view. But it's amazing now, you look right across when you're there, and you're looking right at this massive building. So it means something on a different level when you know him and you visit the locations. And then I was a Bloodsport fanatic. Like, I have everything on Bloodsport. I have a lot of the original stuff. I have, so you see it slightly differently maybe. Or maybe some of you guys in the audience feel the same. I don't know, tell me.
Well, great to see all the different perspectives. Guys, thank you so much for being here. And everybody, Sheldon is going to be willing to sign anything you guys got. We also have printed up a little souvenir for everyone that came here tonight, and if you will sign that as well. But give us just a second. If you guys want to start heading out into the lobby, we have a line that's going to be set up. And it's going to be a 2-item maximum if you have something to sign up.
Just one thing before you go. The interesting thing is that I've met so many people who say they got into martial arts because of Bloodsport, or they got back into martial arts because of Bloodsport. And other people say they either were in bodybuilding and really motivated them, or they got back into some sort of training because he kind of had, I don't know if there's really a better physique on screen. He's very symmetrical. He just looks really good on screen, and that's very motivational. So just even for the people who don't do martial arts, that movie is very motivational from a fitness standpoint also, and flexibility standpoint and all that stuff.
Oh, really, guys, thank you guys so much. Thank you, guys. Thank you, everybody.